And do you have to do anything special to support a wide range of devices, not when it comes to the SDK level, but to the different manufacturers, especially the Chinese ones often cause problems. To just accept that your app maybe it does not work on some devices or doesn't work properly, or do you do anything special to support all devices?
Yeah, so historically it used to be Samsung devices that were terrible because they used to break parts of the Android system for no reason, and then you'd have to write pieces of code that only work on Samsung devices. But generally speaking, I haven't really run into that in probably the last few years. But I think you also, like you said, you have to accept that this doesn't work everywhere. And if you get crashes or you get users reporting, it doesn't work on a specific device and you can fix it, great. But sometimes you can't fix it, or sometimes the effort to fix it is just not worth your time. And then you just, blacklist that device from your Play Store account so the app won't be offered on those devices. But generally speaking, there's not really anything that I've had to do recently to combat different devices.
But Read It To Me needs a foreground service, right?
Yeah.
And I know that some of these Chinese devices, they love to kill services. Did you have any problems with that?
There is this thing around that as well, but that was so I solved that, but I didn't solve it specifically for Chinese devices because there's also my Samsung phone loves to kill apps. I had a OnePlus 7, I think. It used to love to kill everything as soon as I pressed the home button. So you have to work around stuff like that, but most of that is you have to code things in a way. It's the same as anything, right? Like you don't code an activity so that when you open it, it works, but when you resume it, it crashes. You code it so that if it gets killed and somebody tries to resume it, all the data that you passed to it initially is still available because you passed it in a bundle or what have you. So this was the same thing. I basically bank on the service being killed, and then I write the code to say, right, we're resuming from scratch because we've just started. So you have a service on create. You've very obviously just created this service. Make sure you reset anything that you had saved in shared preferences to, the original settings because the service is not running anymore, and you start again. And if that happens like every 5 minutes, it's a terrible experience for the user, and it probably drains a ton of battery life to keep, turning this stuff on and then killing it and turning it on again. But you have to work around stuff like that for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I also just recently recorded an episode with Gabo Varadi, which will release before this one, where we talked a lot about process dev. Do you pay a lot of attention to process dev or do you just ignore it? Because I know some people just pretend or that it doesn't exist, or they don't know that process dev is a problem.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so for the Read It To Me app, I have to because but my attention is mostly I have to assume it's going to be restarted because that's what I've asked it to do, and that's basically as much as I can do. But I have to because it's a background service, right? There is no foreground app. The user doesn't know the app's been killed. They just know my app stopped reading and they don't know why. So I have to make sure that as much as I can mitigate, it gets killed, it gets restarted, and make sure it works. But in terms of any front end facing apps, not particularly, no. I think that's the cost of doing business, as they say. It's like if you've got a live app running and it goes to the background, and it gets killed, and then you open it and it starts back on the homepage. Like there is definitely things you can do for that, and I think it depends. If you have an app that has like a basket of items, and the app gets killed and you lose all your items, you have to work around. If the app gets killed, let's not lose all my items because that's a horrible user experience. If I have the Facebook app and I'm on the homepage, and then I close it and it gets killed and I reopen it and I'm still on the home page, it makes no difference. So
Yeah, but that's when you're lucky, because what usually happens is that the app automatically brings you back to the screen you were on before you
yeah,
put the app into the background.
yeah,
And this can really break the app.
100%, yeah.
If you move to a detail screen, for example, and you send an ID over, but you didn't save it across process dev and your app is killed, and then you come back to the detail screen, but there is no item to display anymore, stuff like that.
So this is also part of the way that you have to kind of build things in that for example, don't pass, if you have a fragment, don't pass parameters into your fragment creator because as soon as that's killed, those parameters are not restored. So you want to put them in your arguments. But you also want to anticipate that they might be blank and then do some sort of action because that could also happen. So I think it definitely depends, but generally speaking, I think you just have to one, you have to do things the best way that you can, and then two, you also have to assume that something could go wrong. So for example, if I'm passing an object to an activity and I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to do, when I get to that activity, let's make sure, is this object null? If it's null, let's not worry about trying to do all these actions on it. Let's just exit the app. And, if you have to exit the app and say something went wrong with a toast message, because realistically you should never be in that scenario, then so be it. But you can't, you can, but it just wastes a lot of time to try and be like, right, let's retrace what what was the back stack supposed to be up to this point. Can we recreate everything? Can we recreate all the objects and all that kind of stuff? And for me, for my apps, it's not relevant. For my clients, it would be like, what is the behavior that you want to happen here, and how much time do you want to pay me for to try and kind of work around these edge cases? So.
Yeah, I think a lot of bigger apps that I'm using also just restart. At least I feel like this is the case.
Yeah.
I know that when I open Instagram after a while, then it always goes back to the feed. But I think they actually do this on purpose, so you are sucked into the feed again.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And you see new posts.
It's a feature. It's not a bug.
Yeah, I think they do this on purpose. And also TikTok, when you are on the first screen and you press the back button, which you normally would expect closes the app, they actually load a new post. And then they show a toast message saying you have to press it again
twice,
to leave the app. But this is really, it feels almost malicious to me to do it like that, because they want you to see that new post, and they know that if a new post loads, you won't click that back button again immediately, because you see something new and you are interested in that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I guess it makes sense that it works to keep more engagement, but this is going into a bit of malicious territory, in my opinion.
No, I 100% agree with you. It's bad UX, it's great marketing. And I've had clients who are like, they don't have an app that's anything like that. They'll have like a shopping app, and you press the back button and they're like, no, we want them to see a message that says press it again. And I would have to explain to them, like, no, that's terrible UX. Like, no, if they press the back button, they want to leave. They're not unsure that they want to leave. And if they were unsure, they can come back. So yeah, but to TikTok's point, that's their business, is getting you to stay on the app. So any tricks they could use to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah, Facebook is similar. I also want to mention that if people want to learn more about the process dev topic, they can watch my episode with Gabo Varadi, because there we talk about this in more detail, and Gabo is really the messenger of process dev. It's his passion topic. He really loves talking about that.